Commander Hyunwoo stood in front of the large window on his ship, looking out at the stars. The black space stretched forever, dotted with tiny lights that had been shining for millions of years. He had been doing this job for 15 years, now watching dead planets and empty space. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. "Sir, the morning reports are ready," said Lieutenant Soo-jin as she walked onto the bridge. She was young, maybe 25, with bright eyes that still held excitement about space travel. Hyunwoo remembered being like that once. He took the data pad from her and scrolled through the numbers, radiation levels, temperature readings, atmospheric data, all from planets that had no life left on them. Most of these worlds had been dead for hundreds or thousands of years. Earth was different, though. Earth had only been dead for 200 years. "Still nothing from the Sol system," Soo-jin said, reading over his shoulder. "Same as always." Hyunwoo nodded. The humans had destroyed themselves in a terrible war. Nuclear weapons, poison gas, diseases made in laboratories. They had used everything they could think of to kill each other. When the smoke cleared, nothing was left alive on their blue planet. The Zephyrian Collective had watched it happen from far away, too distant to help even if they had wanted to. "It is sad," Soo-jin said quietly. "They seemed like they could have been good people." "Maybe," Hyunwoo replied, "but they chose violence instead of peace. Now we study their empty world to learn from their mistakes." The bridge was quiet except for the soft humming of the ship's engines. Other crew members worked at their stations, monitoring space around them. It was peaceful work usually. Nothing ever happened in dead space. Then the communication system made a loud beeping sound. "Sir," called out Ensign Taeho from the communication station. "We're getting strange readings from probe Delta 7. Hyunwoo walked over to look at the screen. Delta 7 was their newest probe, sent to circle around Earth and take pictures. It had been working perfectly for 3 days, sending back the same boring data they always got. Dead oceans, empty cities falling apart, no signs of life anywhere. "What kind of strange readings?" Hyunwoo asked. Taeho frowned at his screen. "The probe was sending normal data, then suddenly all the signals got very weak. Now they're getting weaker every minute." "Equipment failure?" "I don't think so, sir. The probe is still working, but something is interfering with its signals, Lieutenant." Soo-jin leaned over to look at the data. "Maybe it flew through a radiation cloud?" "No," Taeho said, shaking his head. "Radiation would show up on our sensors. This is different. It's like something is blocking the signals on purpose." Hyunwoo felt a cold feeling in his stomach. In 15 years of watching dead space, nothing like this had ever happened. Probes sometimes broke down, but they didn't just slowly stop working for no reason. "How long until we lose contact completely?" he asked. Taeho calculated quickly. "At this rate, maybe 2 hours. Can we change the probe's course, move it away from whatever is causing the interference?" "I'm trying, sir, but the probe isn't responding to new commands. It's like something is jamming our control signals, too." The bridge became very quiet. Everyone was listening now, even though they pretended to be working at their own stations. This was the most interesting thing that had happened in months. 1 hour and 47 minutes later, probe Delta 7 went completely silent. "Nothing, sir," Taeho reported. "No signals at all. It's like the probe just disappeared." Hyunwoo stared at the empty screen where Delta 7's data used to appear. In all his years of service, he had never lost a probe like this. They were built to survive almost anything. Radiation storms, meteor impacts, even flying close to stars. "Send another probe," he ordered. "Delta 8. Same flight path as Delta 7. "Sir, are you sure? If something destroyed Delta 7, we need to know what happened. Send the probe." Delta 8 lasted 2 days before it also went silent. Delta 9 made it 3 days. Delta 10 disappeared after only 6 hours. By now, other ships in the collective fleet were paying attention. 4 probes lost in 2 weeks was not normal. Something was hunting their technology around Earth, and whatever it was had gotten very good at catching probes. Hyunwoo sat in his private office reading reports and trying to understand what was happening. Earth was supposed to be dead. Nothing lived there anymore. So what was destroying their probes? He had two choices. He could report to his commanders that the area around Earth was dangerous and recommend staying away. Or he could ask for permission to investigate with a full military ship. The smart choice was to stay away. The safe choice was to mark the Sol system as hazardous and avoid it completely. But Hyunwoo had been watching empty space for 15 years, and finally, something interesting was happening. He picked up his communication device and started writing a report to Fleet Command, requesting permission to investigate the Sol system with a full reconnaissance mission. Something was alive near Earth, and he was going to find out what it was. Dr. Minho walked back and forth in his laboratory, staring at the screens that covered every wall. Each screen showed information from the probes that had disappeared near Earth. He had been studying the data for 3 weeks now, and nothing made sense. "The energy readings are impossible," he said to his assistant, Dr. Hyejin. "Look at this pattern. Right before each probe went silent, we detected artificial gravity fields and electromagnetic signatures that shouldn't exist around a dead planet." Hyejin looked at the colorful graphs on the screens. She was a smart woman who had studied alien technology for 10 years, but even she was confused. Could it be some kind of natural phenomenon? Maybe something left over from the human war? No. Minho shook his head. Natural events don't learn and adapt, but whatever is taking our probes gets better at it each time. The first probe, Delta 7, transmitted for almost 3 days. The last one, Delta 10, only lasted 6 hours. Something is studying our technology and figuring out how to stop it faster. Far away from their research station near the dark side of Earth's moon, Captain Ji-yoon sat in the command chair of her ship. The ship was called Silent Dawn, but no alien eyes could see it. Human technology had advanced far beyond what the galaxy remembered, and perfect invisibility was just one of their new abilities. "Captain, we have another visitor," said her sensor officer, Tae-sung. He was a quiet man who rarely spoke unless he had something important to say. "Zephyrian probe, same design as the others, but they've made some changes." Ji-eun looked at the holographic display that appeared in front of her chair. The alien probe was small, about the size of a car, and covered with sensors and communication equipment. She could see that the aliens had added extra shielding and better computers since their last attempt. "They're learning too," she said with a small smile. "Good for them, but not good enough." The Silent Dawn moved toward the probe without making any sound or light. Human ships didn't need loud engines or bright flames to travel through space. They used technology that bent space itself, sliding through the universe like fish through water. "Boarding team ready, Captain," reported Lieutenant Dong-hyun. He was the leader of the soldiers who specialized in capturing alien technology without leaving any traces behind. "Proceed," Ji-eun ordered. "Remember, we need to learn everything we can from this probe, but when we're done, it needs to disappear. Completely. No evidence, no debris, nothing for them to find." The boarding team moved to their small transport ship and flew toward the alien probe. They used special tools to disable its systems without damaging anything important. Within 30 minutes, the probe was powerless and being pulled into the cargo bay of the Silent Dawn. While the soldiers worked, Ji-eun thought about the irony of the situation. The aliens believed they were watching a dead world, but actually, they were the ones being watched. Humanity had been monitoring alien communications and movements for decades, learning everything about their technology, their politics, and their military capabilities. In the cargo bay, the human science team began taking the probe apart piece by piece. Every component was photographed, analyzed, and cataloged. The probe's computer memory was downloaded and studied by artificial intelligence systems that could process information faster than any living brain. "This is interesting," said Chief Engineer So Young as she examined the probe's power source. "They've improved the efficiency by 12% since the last probe. Their engineers are definitely learning from their failures." Captain Ji-eun nodded. "Good. The more they improve, the more we learn about their current technology level. Make sure every detail is recorded and sent to intelligence headquarters." Back on the research station, Dr. Minho was getting frustrated. He had requested permission to send a military escort with the next probe, but his commanders had refused. They thought he was worrying too much about empty space around a dead planet. Perhaps we should try a different approach, suggested Dr. Hyjin. Instead of sending probes directly to Earth, what if we position them further away and use long-range sensors? We tried that, Minho replied. Remember probe Delta 12? We kept it 3 million kilometers away from Earth, but it still disappeared. Whatever is out there has a very long reach. What Dr. Minho didn't know was that human listening posts were scattered throughout the entire solar system. Some were hidden in asteroids, others were built into the surfaces of small moons, and a few were completely artificial stations that looked like space debris. Every alien probe that entered the solar system was detected immediately and tracked by multiple sensors. Admiral J. Min, the commander of all human forces in the solar system, reviewed the latest intelligence reports in his office on the hidden station called Deep Watch. The station was built inside a large asteroid, completely invisible to alien sensors. The aliens are getting suspicious, reported his intelligence chief, Colonel Dayun. Their probe losses are being noticed at high levels. We estimate they'll send a military investigation within the next few months. Jamin leaned back in his chair and considered their options. For 200 years, humanity had remained hidden while rebuilding their civilization and advancing their technology. The deception had worked perfectly, but now the aliens were starting to ask the right questions. How many probes have we captured so far? He asked. 17, Dayun replied. Each one has given us more information about collective technology and capabilities. Our scientists estimate that we're now at least 50 years ahead of them in most areas. And they still have no idea we exist? None at all. As far as they know, Earth is still a dead world with some kind of dangerous space phenomenon around it. Jamin smiled. The irony was perfect. The Watchers had become the Watched, and they didn't even know it. Admiral Sung Ho stood on the bridge of his massive warship, staring at the star map floating in front of him. The journey to the Sol system would take 3 weeks, and he was not looking forward to it. Investigating dead planets was boring work, but the High Council had given him direct orders. 17 probes lost in 4 months, he said to his second-in-command, Commander Yuna. Something out there is either very dangerous or very intelligent, maybe both. Yuna nodded as she checked the status of their fleet. They had brought 12 ships with them, including 2 heavy cruisers and a science vessel. If there was something hostile near Earth, they would be ready for it. Sir, all ships report ready for the final jump to Sol system, she announced. Proceed, Sung Ho ordered. The fleet disappeared in flashes of blue light as their faster-than-light engines activated. Moments later, they reappeared at the edge of the solar system, their sensors immediately beginning to scan the area. Initial readings show normal background radiation, reported the science officer. No immediate threats detected. But as they moved closer to the inner planets, their instruments began picking up something impossible. Admiral, Yuna called out, her voice filled with shock. You need to see this. Sung Ho hurried to her station and looked at the display. What he saw made no sense at all. The third planet from the sun, Earth, was blazing with artificial lights. Massive cities covered the continents and orbital structures surrounded the planet like jewelry. That's impossible, he whispered. Earth is supposed to be dead. Sir, I'm detecting space elevators, orbital habitats, terraforming operations on Mars, and what appears to be industrial mining in the asteroid belt, the science officer reported. This planet is not only alive, it's thriving. 600 million kilometers away on the hidden command station Prometheus Watch, Admiral Jamin received the alert he had been waiting for. The alien fleet had finally arrived to investigate, and their sensors were good enough to see through the deception that had protected Earth for 2 centuries. Signal all Shadow Fleet vessels, he ordered his communications officer, Lieutenant Hei-Wan. Phase 1 is complete. Begin Phase 2. Yes, sir. All ships acknowledge and are moving to positions. Admiral Jamin walked to the large observation window and looked out at Earth. The planet was beautiful, covered with green forests and blue oceans, with cities that sparkled like stars. Orbital rings carried cargo and people between the surface and space stations. Mars showed patches of green where terraforming was slowly creating a new atmosphere. It's time to end the lie, he said quietly. Back on the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Sung Ho was trying to understand what he was seeing. His science teams were working frantically, analyzing every piece of data they could gather. "Sir, the energy signatures from Earth are at least 100 years more advanced than our best technology," the chief scientist reported. "Whoever is down there has capabilities far beyond anything in the collective." "But that's impossible," Commander Yuna said. "We watch the humans destroy themselves. We have recordings of their nuclear war, their poisoned atmosphere, their empty cities." "Then someone has been lying to us for 200 years, Sung Ho replied grimly. Suddenly, space around the Zephyrian fleet began to shimmer like water. One by one, sleek human ships appeared out of nowhere, surrounding the alien vessels completely. The human ships were elegant and clean, with smooth curves that seemed to bend light around them. "This is Admiral Jamin of the Terran Defense Force," came a voice over their communication system, speaking perfect Zephyrian language. "Welcome to Sol system. We apologize for the deception, but we found it necessary for our peaceful development." Admiral Sung Ho stared at the ships surrounding his fleet. They had appeared without any warning, without any trace on his sensors. His best military technology had been completely useless against their stealth capabilities. "How?" he asked over the open channel. "We watched your planet die. We saw the devastation." "You saw what we wanted you to see," Admiral Jamin replied calmly. "Holographic projectors, false radiation signatures, carefully staged destruction. We needed time to rebuild and advance without interference." On the bridge of the human flagship New Seoul, Captain So Young was coordinating the revelation with her crew. They had prepared for this moment for decades, running simulations and planning every detail. "Sir, should we transmit the intelligence package?" she asked Admiral Jamin. "Yes. Let them understand exactly how long we've been watching." The data package that arrived on Admiral Sung Ho's ship contained information that made his blood run cold. The humans had detailed records of collective military movements, trade, agreements, internal politics, and technological developments going back 50 years. They knew about secret weapons projects, diplomatic negotiations, and even personal information about high-ranking officials. "You've been spying on us," Sung Ho said, his voice barely steady. "We've been learning," Jamin corrected. "While you thought we were extinct, we were quietly studying galactic civilization. We know your strengths, your weaknesses, your fears, and your hopes." Commander Yuna looked at her tactical display with growing horror. The human ships showed energy readings that were completely off the scale. Their weapons could probably destroy the entire Zephyrian fleet in minutes. "What do you want from us?" Admiral Sung Ho asked. "Peace," Jamin replied simply. "Trade, cultural exchange. We've spent 2 centuries preparing to join galactic society, but we wanted to do it from a position of strength, not weakness. And if we refuse, then you go home and tell your leaders what you've seen here. But I think you'll find that cooperation is much more profitable than conflict." Admiral Sung Ho looked around his bridge at his shocked crew members. In one day, everything they thought they knew about the galaxy had changed. The extinct humans were not only alive but had become the most advanced civilization any of them had ever encountered. "I need to contact the High Council immediately," he said. "Of course," Jamin agreed. "Take all the time you need. We've waited 200 years. We can wait a little longer." Admiral Sung Ho sat in his command chair, staring at the communication screen that showed Admiral Jamin's calm face. 3 hours had passed since the human ships had appeared around his fleet, and he still couldn't believe what was happening. "Your High Council meeting is taking longer than expected," Jamin observed politely. "Are they having trouble accepting the situation?" Sung Ho rubbed his forehead tiredly. "They're demanding proof that you're really human. Some council members think this is an elaborate trick by another alien species." "Understandable," Jamin replied. "We can provide genetic samples, historical records, even cultural artifacts if needed. We have nothing to hide anymore." On the bridge of the human flagship New Seoul, Captain So Young was monitoring communications from the Zephyrian fleet. Their code-breaking computers had easily cracked the alien encryption, allowing them to listen to every conversation. "The Zephyrians are scared," she reported to Admiral Jamin. Their military advisors are recommending immediate withdrawal to gather reinforcements. And their scientists? Fascinated. They're begging for permission to study our technology. Jamin smiled slightly. Human intelligence had predicted this exact reaction. Fear from the military, curiosity from the scientists, and confusion from the politicians. It was a typical response when a civilization discovered they were no longer at the top of the technological ladder. Captain Hyejin, begin transmitting the prepared cultural package, he ordered. The data that flowed to the Zephyrian ships contained music, art, literature, and historical records spanning 200 years of hidden human development. It showed a civilization that had not only survived their supposed extinction, but had flourished beyond anything the galaxy had imagined. On Admiral Sung Ho's ship, the translation computers worked frantically to process the incoming information. The chief linguist, Dr. Quan Ho, was amazed by what he found. "Admiral, these are definitely human languages," he reported, "but they've evolved significantly. I'm detecting influences from at least 12 different alien linguistic structures." "How is that possible?" Sung Ho asked. "They've been studying our languages for decades," Dr. Quan Ho explained. "This level of linguistic integration would require constant monitoring of our communications." The implications hit Sung Ho like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just been hiding and developing in isolation. They had been actively watching and learning from galactic civilization for generations. Every diplomatic meeting, every trade negotiation, every military exercise had been observed and analyzed. "Sir, urgent message from the High Council," announced Commander Yuna. The holographic image of High Counselor Veltar appeared on the bridge, his expression grave. Behind him, Sung Ho could see other council members arguing loudly in the background. "Admiral, you are ordered to establish formal diplomatic contact with these humans," Veltar announced. "The Science Council is particularly interested in their stealth technology and energy systems. And if they refuse to share their technology," Sung Ho asked, "then you will assess their military capabilities and report back immediately." Admiral Jamin, who had been quietly listening to this conversation through their surveillance systems, decided it was time to demonstrate exactly what humanity was capable of. He gave a subtle hand signal to his tactical officer. Around the Zephyrian fleet, space began to shimmer again. But this time, instead of more ships appearing, the stars themselves seemed to bend and twist. Reality warped as human vessels demonstrated their ability to manipulate space-time itself. "What's happening?" Commander Yuna cried out as her instruments went wild. "We're showing you what we've learned to do with physics," came Admiral Jamin's voice over their speakers. "Don't worry, you're perfectly safe. We're just bending space around your ships, not affecting you directly." The demonstration lasted only 30 seconds, but it was enough to prove that human technology operated on principles the collective didn't even understand. When space returned to normal, Admiral Sung Ho found himself looking at readings that his science officer said were impossible. "Admiral," came a new voice from the human fleet. This was Captain Yun Seo, commander of the science vessel Harmony's Dream. "We'd like to propose an exchange program. Some of our scientists would visit your research stations, and some of yours could come to Earth." Dr. Minho, who had been studying the missing probe data for months, nearly fell out of his chair when he heard this offer. The chance to study advanced human technology was beyond his wildest dreams. "We accept," he said quickly before Admiral Sung Ho could respond. "Dr. Minho," Sung Ho warned. "Sir, with respect, this is the greatest scientific opportunity in galactic history," Minho replied. "These humans have solved problems we didn't even know existed." Admiral J. Min found the alien scientist's enthusiasm amusing. "Dr. Minho, we've been reading your research papers for years. Your work on quantum field interactions was particularly impressive. We'd be honored to have you visit our laboratories." The fact that the humans knew about his scientific work, published in restricted military journals, hit Dr. Minho like a shock. They really had been watching everything for decades. "How long?" Admiral Sung Ho asked quietly. "How long have you been spying on us?" 57 years of active surveillance," Admiral Jamin replied honestly. "We needed to understand galactic politics and technology before revealing ourselves. We didn't want to make the same mistakes our ancestors made." What mistakes? Revealing our capabilities too early, before we were strong enough to negotiate as equals. This time we waited until we were certain we could protect ourselves and our interests. Commander Yuna looked at her tactical display, which showed human energy signatures that were still climbing off the scale. You're not just equals anymore, are you? No, Jamin admitted. We're considerably more advanced, but we prefer cooperation to conquest. We've learned that lesson from studying galactic history. Admiral Sung Ho realized that everything had changed in a single day. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted completely, and the collective would have to adapt to a new reality where humans were no longer the extinct primitive species they had once pitied. I'll need to escort a diplomatic team back to Zephyr Prime, he said finally. Of course. We'll provide one of our ships for the journey. It will cut your travel time by 70%. Even their transportation technology was superior. Sung Ho wondered what other surprises humanity had waiting for the galaxy. Ambassador Lena walked through the crystal corridors of the Zephyrian Capitol building, her footsteps echoing softly on the polished floors. Hundreds of alien citizens stopped to stare at her as she passed. Most had never seen a human before, and the few who had thought humans were extinct. The first human to set foot on Zephyr Prime in over 300 years, whispered her escort, diplomat Jun-sik. He carried a small device that translated her words into perfect Zephyrian language, though Lena had been studying their speech patterns for months. Actually, I'm the first human to set foot here officially, Lena corrected with a smile. Our intelligence agents have been visiting this planet for decades. You'd be surprised how easy it is to blend in when people think your entire species is dead. The revelation made Jun-sik uncomfortable, but he had gotten used to learning disturbing truths about humanity's secret activities. In the 3 months since first contact, the galaxy had discovered that humans had been everywhere, watching everything, learning constantly. In the High Council chambers, Lena took her seat at a table that had been specially designed for human physiology. Around her sat representatives of 7 different alien species, all trying to hide their nervousness behind diplomatic smiles. The terraforming technology we're offering could restore 12 dead worlds in your outer territories, Lena explained, displaying holographic images of Mars's transformation. Our medical advances could add 50 years to the average lifespan of every collective species. High Counselor Veltar leaned forward with interest. And in return? Cultural exchange programs, access to your historical archives, and fair trade agreements. We're not asking for anything you haven't freely shared with each other for centuries. What Lena didn't mention was that humans already had copies of most collective historical records, obtained through decades of careful espionage, but diplomacy required certain polite fictions. On Earth, President Kehoe sat in his office overlooking the rebuilt city of Seoul. Through his window he could see the space elevator stretching up into the clouds, carrying cargo and passengers to the orbital stations. Flying cars moved between the towering buildings, and the Han River ran clean and blue beneath elegant bridges. The Centauri Union wants to establish an embassy, reported his Chief of Staff, Minister Wu Jin. The Kepler Federation is offering exclusive mining rights in 3 systems. Even the isolationist Vega Collective is requesting technology exchanges. Kehoe nodded as he reviewed the reports. Every major power in the galaxy was suddenly eager to befriend humanity, now that they knew humans weren't weak and extinct. What about our own expansion plans, he asked. The Outer Colonies Department has identified 47 suitable worlds for human settlement. With our new, faster-than-light technology, we could establish permanent colonies within 5 years. Meanwhile, in the Collective Military Academy on Rigel Station, young alien cadets were studying new textbooks that included detailed chapters about human military capabilities. The lessons were humbling and frightening. Human stealth technology makes our best warships look like burning torches in the darkness, explained Instructor Velkoa to his class. Their energy weapons can disable our shields in seconds. Most importantly, they've been studying our tactics and strategies for decades, while we knew nothing about theirs. One brave student raised her hand. But they're offering to share their technology with us, right? Some of it, Velkoa replied. They're giving us advances in medicine, agriculture, and civilian transportation. But military technology? That remains exclusively human. Back on Earth, Dr. Yunji was leading a group of alien scientists through the Interspecies Research Institute. The facility had been built specifically for the technology exchange programs, with laboratories designed to accommodate various alien biologies. The key breakthrough was understanding quantum field manipulation, she explained to her fascinated audience. Once we learned to bend space-time itself, faster than light travel became simple. Dr. Quan Ho, the Zephyrian linguist who had first analyzed human communications, was taking careful notes. How did you make such advances in isolation? Most scientific progress requires collaboration between multiple species. Dr. Yunji smiled. Who said we were isolated? We've been collaborating with galactic civilization for 50 years. You just didn't know about it. The alien scientists exchanged uncomfortable glances. Every conversation with humans seemed to reveal another layer of their long deception. In the asteroid belt, human mining operations worked alongside collective crews, demonstrating advanced extraction techniques that could process raw materials with 90% efficiency. The aliens watched in amazement as human machines seemed to make solid rock flow like water. How are you doing this? Asked mining engineer Talvin. Molecular manipulation, replied human supervisor Min Jae. We learned to control matter at the atomic level. It's much more efficient than traditional mining methods. On the diplomatic front, Ambassador Li Na was making progress with the more stubborn collective members. The military representatives had initially demanded that humans share their weapons technology, but they quickly learned that humanity negotiated from a position of strength. We understand your concerns about security, Li Na told Admiral Corval during a private meeting. But surely you can see that our technology in the wrong hands could destabilize the entire galaxy. Your technology is already destabilizing the galaxy, Corval replied bluntly. Every military strategist is redesigning their defense plans based on capabilities we don't fully understand. Then perhaps it's time for new strategies based on cooperation rather than conflict, Lena suggested. We've studied galactic history. War has never made anyone truly secure. As months passed, the new reality settled into place. Human ships appeared at trade stations throughout the galaxy, their elegant designs becoming familiar sights. Human diplomats established embassies on dozens of worlds. Human scientists shared carefully selected technologies that improved life for billions of beings. But everyone understood the fundamental truth. Humanity had become the dominant power in known space not through conquest, but through patience, intelligence, and the wisdom to remain hidden until they were ready to emerge. Children across the galaxy learned new lessons about the importance of underestimating no one, especially the quiet ones who seemed harmless. The species that had been pitied as extinct had become the civilization that everyone else looked up to, feared and desperately wanted as allies.